really allowed me to put my expectations into check and reality. And so last year was a huge surprise going 6-6. Really, I thought they'd be in the 4 to 5 win mark, but they had a couple of upsets and got to that bowl game, which obviously we don't need to go into because it was disappointing in itself. But looks like there's a lot of young great kids coming into the fold that are excited to be Cougars, and I want kids that are prima donnas that want to come to Pullman and be a Coug. They're not just using their Wazoo offer to as leverage to get offers from elsewhere. But great to see a lot of speed coming in the class with guys like Keith Harrington and Calvin Green. It looks like the recruiting pipeline of Polynesian kids does nothing but it continues to grow with the defensive line coach Joe Salabea, who is from American Samoa and played in the NFL. We got a linebacker coming over named Frank Luvu, who I'm really excited. I would imagine he redshirts, but would expect him to be holding down a starting spot here in the next couple of years. But as someone who, like you said, diehard Coug puts it nicely. I followed college recruiting for about a decade, ever since a girl I was dating in college gave me access to her dad's CougFin.com account. I've just, it's been kind of a hobby of mine. I don't get too high or too low when kids go elsewhere and don't want to be Cougs. It was an interesting year for that. Saw a lot of flip flopping. Lost kids to UW, lost to Cal, to Vanderbilt, Arizona, and then we snuck a couple away from other schools. But the one thing that I think was pretty interesting about this class was we had a kicker locked up since last June, a kid named Tristan Vizcaino, and he ended up signing with the Huskies after Chris Peterson came on there, and kind of leaves us in an interesting spot with no scholarship or walk-on kickers on the roster, to my knowledge. Obviously, with the graduation of Andrew Fernie last year, so that'll be kind of one of the interesting things to watch here in 2014 from the recruiting class standpoint. And, excited for the season. What struck you?
Well, yeah, it was good to see all the highlight film of the kids coming on. That was pretty exciting. Washington State's kind of really stepped up their game with investing money into the training facilities. Can you talk a little bit about what they've done?
Yeah, so in the last couple of years, Washington State has not only completely remodeled their press box. It used to be a little rinky-dink thing that sat on the south side of the stadium, but they built it into, a three-story structure that if you haven't been on campus in the last couple of years, you wouldn't even recognize the stadium. It looks awesome. Club level, premium seating, heat, bar, quality food. It's a lot better than what you get on the other side where I sit. But I've had a lot of fun up there, and I think that cost them about $70 or $80 million. And then for about the last 14 months, they've been building the football operations building that sits in the west end zone where the scoreboard was until this year. There used to be some corporate tents, and the band would sit over there. But it's now a football operations building that will house the entirety of the program, from my understanding. We'll have all the locker rooms, the coaches' offices, meeting rooms, a full kitchen, and then obviously all the weight rooms and training. And it looks like it's going to be incredibly high tech and cutting edge. Really, probably going to look a lot like what Oregon's been doing the last couple of years that Bill Moose started before he finished his time in Eugene and came home to Pullman. But it's going to be, not only is it going to be great for the football team, but it's going to clear up a lot of room in the other athletic facilities in Bullard Gymnasium, so that the girls' basketball team and the men's basketball team and everyone else has a little more room. It looks like coaches will have the ability to pull up scouting tape on an opponent, on a player, at the touch of a button on the wall. It looks like it's going to be really cool, and I'm going to be over there for a bit of unfortunate work here in a few weeks, and looking to get a tour. So I'll definitely report back to you on that when I do. And it's just one of those things. Investing in facilities is important. 18, 19-year-old kids, kind of coming to college. There's obviously the debate about paying players, but they're going to be living and breathing nothing but football for the next 4 to 5 years, 6 sometimes if there's injuries. So, having state-of-the-art facilities is basically required. It's with the new Pac-12 TV contracts. I've heard there's over $1 billion in construction into football facilities alone on Pac-12 campuses right now.
Lucas, that's got to really help out with recruiting too. I imagine in the past when we didn't have those things and these kids would go to Oregon, it was kind of a no-brainer for them to go there.
Yeah, I've got to imagine it's kind of like going through fraternity recruitment.
Yeah.
Kind of the way I always look at it. There's all sorts of bright lights and shiny bells and whistles that attract kids, and yeah, it doesn't seem like kids care as much today about tradition as they do being fully connected, having all the coolest technology, the neatest uniforms, and really I think that was a trend that started with our current athletic director at his time when he was in Oregon, and it's a big recruiting year for in-state talent. There's a lot of just phenomenal football players, so having these facilities up and fully functioning is going to play a huge part in the Cougs continuing to field competitive teams, and I believe that one of the top quarterbacks in the country is actually on campus today.
Excellent.
In Brett Rippon, who is Mark Rippon's nephew. So it's going to be fun to watch over the next couple of years to see how recruiting changes with these new facilities.
Having Bill Moose there, that was such a big blessing for the Cougs. What has your experience been following him and the moves he's been making? Are you just loving every second of it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Bill Moose is one of the most dynamic people in college athletics. He can hobnob with the people in suits and ties, or he can throw on a pair of Carhartts and grab a shotgun and go hang out and shoot pheasants with the people on the east side of the state. And there's a lot of those that are Cougar fans too.
Yeah.
I think he gets it. I don't know if Jim Sturck did, to be honest, but at the same time, he's also got money at his disposal that Jim absolutely never had. But it's clear he is in the business of winning. There's absolutely no way Ken Bone survives this nightmare of a basketball season. Bill just doesn't settle. I loved the way he went after recruiting Leach while Paul's fourth season was kind of in the skids. And I actually just read a book that had quite a bit about Bill in it. It's called The System, and it follows about 6 or 7 different college football programs over the course of like 18 months. And one of the things they looked at was kind of the termination of Leach at Texas Tech, and then Bill Moose's hiring of him at Washington State University. And if you're a football fan of any sort, I highly encourage you to give it a read. It's interesting to kind of see the inside and the business of big-time college athletics. I'm stoked to have Bill in the fold. Obviously, he got us Leach, and I think that WSU is primed to start turning the corner on the football field.
Lucas, what kind of challenges are we facing this season? What do we need to do to win more games and make it to a nicer bowl?
That's a great question. In short, the defense can't continue to get shredded like it did the majority of 2013. I mean, they went into the first 4 games. We went down to Auburn, and the D looked pretty solid, and we went down to LA and looked like a legitimate defense, like our 2003 defense against the Trojans, and then we came home and shut out Idaho and put a pretty good licking on Southern Utah, and then they just got smashed the rest of the year. And I don't know if it was fatigue or coaches strategizing against us, but to see that Colorado State put up nearly 600 yards against us, but that just can't continue. The secondary is going to need to be ready from week 1. They lost Dayon Buchanan, Anthony Carpenter, Nolan Washington, DeMonte Horton, a lot of good football players in the secondary, and so they're going to be young and inexperienced back there. And the other thing that I think really needs to be addressed is the O-line needs to perform at last year's level or better. It really can't afford to get back to performance where they're going up 50, 60 sacks a year like they were for 3 or 4 years. And they're going to be young. They've got a great left side. Connor's blind side is going to be protected with Gunnar Eklund from Lake Stevens and Joe Dahl from Spokane. But starting from the center to the right tackle, a lot of inexperience. I've got to imagine we're going to see a lot of sophomores, redshirt freshmen in the mix there. Probably Cody O'Connell from Wenatchee. I would imagine that Carlos Freeman, who is from Oklahoma, and Sam Floor from O'Day here in Seattle are all in the mix on the right-hand side of the line. I think those are definitely the big things. And then, as funny as it sounds, I think we need to figure out what our special teams are going to do. Looking at the roster, looks like mostly walk-ons that were backups last year to our kicker and punter, and then losing that kid to UW late in the recruiting game, leaves us without a kicker, and that's an important part of any game. Turning the field, whether it's punting on fourth down or being able to put a field goal through the uprights and making it a 2-point win as opposed to a 1-point loss.
Yeah, the Hawks really showed how important special teams are, didn't they, this year? It's going to be nice if we could follow an in-state kind of thing there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there, John Ryan's a fantastic, punter, and Hauschka was something like 32 for 33 on the year. And they're going to either have to pay Hauschka or they're going to, probably lose him. And I don't, who knows if we're going to pay him $3.5 million a year. But I've got to imagine that's the market will dictate for him. And absolutely, they can be the difference between winning and losing. And obviously, they brought home the Lombardi this year in Seattle, which was just awesome.
I love it. What do you think? What do you think the schedule looks like for us in terms of? Do you like it? Do you like records early? I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I was looking at it again this morning, and I'd be shocked if we do anything less than coming out the gate 3-0. And that's not me trying to be a homer. That's me looking at it realistically. We've got Rutgers, who is very mediocre, coming all the way across the country and playing us on a Thursday night in Seattle. Definitely won't be working that Friday. And then we go down to Reno and back home to Portland State. I mean, anything less than 3-0 is unacceptable in my book, especially with two of those games in Pullman and in a pretty bad Nevada-Reno team on the road. And then I love, we've got 7 home games, which I don't think we've had since you and I were in college. 5 conference games in Pullman, plus Rutgers in Seattle and Portland State back in Pullman. It's going to be fun, and we get to see USC and Arizona and Oregon and UW all playing in Pullman. I'm pretty thrilled to have my season tickets renewed already.
I love it. So we just got time for one more question here. Looks, can you kind of what are your thoughts for Apple Cup this year? What do you think? What do you think we got going on there? Is the new hire over Peterson, right?
Yeah, Peterson to UW. It's the last few Boise coaches that have stepped out of the the fishbowl that is lower division D1 if you will. Haven't succeeded, but Chris Peterson did a lot of good things at Boise, and I've got to imagine the Huskies will be in good shape. It will be interesting to see what they do offensively, losing Keith Price, Austin Safarian-Jenkins, and who was the other one today? The running back Bishop Sankey. Yeah. Sorry about that. So they've got they're going to be breaking in a lot of new people, and with Styler Miles potentially being booted from the team for his assault, and DeMaurier Stringfellow being booted. They could be breaking in a quarterback that's never, taken a big boy snap, and the Apple Cup is, in my opinion, the Apple Cup is always a coin toss. Even when we were 1-10,
yeah,
or 2-9 going in, there's just always a chance. I remember, back when you and I were freshmen at Wazoo, I didn't think there was a shot in hell we'd lose as the number 3 team in the country, and even the following year when the Huskies were very mediocre and we were playing for another shot at the Rose Bowl. So I'm stoked to have it in Pullman. I can't wait to get back over there, and I have a steak bet every year with my old roommate, who is a UW grad, and we the loser always buys steak, and we go to the Metropolitan Grill in Seattle, and he's now ahead of me 4-3. So I need to get back on the right side of that track, and additionally, I don't want to wear my uncle's UW Letterman's jacket at Christmas. So we need to get that one, absolutely.
Oh, those are good bets there. I like that. Okay, give me a bowl game prediction. Where do you think we'll go? Any insight on that?
I expect them to be in the 7 to 8 range.
Okay.
For wins. Maybe Las Vegas, San Francisco, the Sun Bowl, something like that. And I hope it's not New Mexico again, because I want to go to a bowl game. That's why I donate. That's why I have season tickets.
Yeah.
And Albuquerque was $2,000 for me and my dad to fly there, and that's just not, in any sensible person's budget, in my opinion. So yeah. I'm hoping it's somewhere easy to access, like Las Vegas or San Diego or San Francisco. So let's say we go to Las Vegas and we get revenge on BYU from Leach's first game in Pullman. That's my prediction.
I like it, and we sure had a good time last time all those Cougs went down to Vegas. That town treated us well.
It always treats Cougs well, and I think Alaska Airlines appreciates it too, because those flights always run out of booze.
Excellent, Lucas. Well, I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking time to call in, man, and good to catch up with you.
Yeah, Tyler, great to see you last night, and thanks for having me on.